Gentlemen, start your engines. Tristan Ogilvie here, sitting alongside Luke, who's literally behind the wheel of this Project Cars review in progress.
It is, unfortunately, but only because we haven't been able to play the multiplayer in any meaningful way yet. I was able to play it last night with two other people, but the game isn't out yet, and so there's it's kind of one half of the experience, really.
Of course.
But I have been playing the single player experience for the past 4.5 days now.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really impressed.
So, Project Cars, uninspiring name, but that's because all of the inspiration has gone into the game itself. Is that true?
Yes.
This is a game for car lovers.
Well, it's a game for car lovers. It's a game, it's been made in a very different way from kind of past racing games.
Right.
Insofar as the way that Slightly Mad attacked this project with the fans that were set to play it involved from sort of day dot, basically.
Right.
So people who join their world of mass development, their WMD, their unfortunate equally
WMD?
Yes, the equally unfortunately named WMD scheme that they set up, could play regular builds of Project Cars, and they've been contributing and their ideas, and so this game is. I'll show you in a minute, and I know you're not as familiar with racing games as me, but
I'm not.
But when you start to see some of the options and some of the things that you can do to and with Project Cars, you start to realize that there's clearly a lot of suggestions.
Right.
You know, so instead of like waiting till the game comes out and then looking at the forums and going, oh yeah, we should have done this. Oh, we should have done this. Oh, everyone wanted us to do this. It's already done.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So one of the things that I mentioned from the outset, actually, in the text, is I really admire just how customizable this entire experience is. So when you start the game up, which you won't see now because I've already chosen it, but
I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah.
We should point out we're playing the PC version.
This is the PC version, yes.
Is what you're about to talk about just apply to the PC version, or
no.
Or
The
console versions
gameplay,
as well?
in terms of the gameplay, applies across the board.
Right. Okay.
There's one slight difference, but it's a really minor one. I'll mention in a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, you can. Here we go. We have all the regular sort of driving aids, which is, like I said, won't be the first or last game to come with that kind of stuff. But it also, mechanical failures, you can turn them off, which it prevents you from blowing an engine when you're in the lead, which happened to me once.
Got it.
But there's a whole bunch of other little stuff, like, for instance, here with the controls, there are so many wheels supported. It's not even funny. I'm not going to change that now because I'll probably screw something up for the video.
You have to install new drivers. Or
Yeah. But basically, what you find is everything. I'll load a career, and I will show you what I'm talking about. Here we got the hub. You got your inbox full of messages. This is where you get your offers from other teams to go and race for them. It's where you get berated by your team principal for getting black flagged for racing the wrong way down the track and all that kind of jazz. You also got your little Twitter feed over here where
you follow
all your fans, all your fans give you props or tease you for being garbage.
Can someone tell Luke Riley that I've loved every second of this season? You never hear such positivity on Twitter, surely.
Yeah, no, you're right. This isn't real Twitter. That's why. Yeah. It's a little daggy, but it's kind of cute. It's kind of quaint.
Yep.
All right, so here we go. You'll note. I'll simulate the qualifying, but you'll note here. This is what I'm talking about. Where you're like, just say, okay, Imola, right? I actually haven't done a great deal of racing on Imola,
right?
And I'm not sure why this is set so low. But yeah, what you can do is you're like, I want a little bit more of a challenge, so I'll just crank it up. Or you think, I'm in an unfamiliar track. I'll crank it down a little bit, just dial it back. But then what you can find is this say I have it here, and I do a race. I qualify, and I find myself, I've qualified, 4 seconds in front of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Then in the next session, you just knock it up just a little bit more. You just
bump
bump
it up
a little bit more. So you can always just find that sweet spot where you just got the right amount of challenge. Same for the session, same for the race length. In this case, it's a qualifying session, so it's all about how long the qualified session goes for. But in a race, you can choose how many laps you're going to race.
Right.
And in an endurance race, that can be anything from like just a couple of laps, crank it all the way up, and all of a sudden you find yourself it's 158 laps or something crazy like that.
Right.
So that's crazy. But one of the other things I wanted to touch on before we... Did I exit that or did I enter?
I think you entered.
The other things I wanted to touch on was how this philosophy of letting you make the game be as difficult or as sort of straightforward.
You mold it around
yourself.
Yep.
That extends to the career mode itself.
Right.
So what I'll do quickly now is you can have... One of the good things is, as you saw before, you can have multiple career modes on the board at once. It's not like a lot of racing games where you have a career mode. If you want to start something different, it's like you got to overwrite what you've already achieved,
right,
or start a new game or whatever like that. This doesn't function like that. So this way, you go, start a new career, Jack, Speed Weasel.
Whoops, it's not typing.
Bugger. I'm leaning over the steering wheel to do this. Jack Weasel.
Jack Weasel.
And you give yourself a nickname.
Speed Weasel.
Speed Weasel.
That's good. I like that.
You like that? Oh, I'll leave it. And you make him...
Belgian, for example. 78.
Yeah. So basically, this is the kind of taste of it here. So what you can do, and on that previous screen you noted there was a few sort of goals that you could achieve.
Yes.
Some of those goals you need to start at a certain place. If you want to achieve the 0 to hero goal, for instance, you need to start in tier 8 and work all the way through to tier 1 within 10 seasons.
Yep.
But there's nothing to say that you can start anywhere you want. I've got a career that I started directly in LMP1, which is like the very cream of the crop.
Right.
I started in touring here. My initial career started here, and I worked my way up to GT4. But then I really want to try one of these endurance races, so I just started. Instead, I didn't have any offers to race in an endurance race, so I just started a new career, and so I have 2 careers currently.
Yeah, right.
So you do whatever you want, which I really like. It's a really good way to set a game up.
How flexible is it in terms of like within each of these sort of competitions? Are there still restrictions on which sort of cars, like an endurance series? Is there certain cars?
Yeah, there are certain cars, but
right.
What you'll find with the endurance series particularly, I found the offers that you get are across a few different categories because they're multi-class.
Right, okay.
They're multi-class, so you're only racing against the cars of your class.
Right.
But there'll be other cars on the track at the same time.
Gotcha.
There'll be up to 35 cars or possibly more on track at the same time.
Okay.
So that's that. But before, we've been diving around these menus for a while.
Yeah, what's with all these menus? This isn't project menus.
But here you go. So you get your offers. You get to choose. I can drive a BMW M3 or a Mustang.
Ooh. There we go.
You get a little snippet. You get a little bit of a.
Is this Bathurst?
This is Bathurst actually. Well
See,
done, Tristan.
I do know a little thing.
Well done.
About something.
Skip through this.
It's only because I'm Australian. I'm obliged to know.
Yeah, you get a little explanation for each of the tiers of competition.
Right.
And I've actually focused a lot of my racing around the GT and the touring cars because that's the kind of stuff that appeals to me most.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people they love open wheelers, and Project Cars caters for that.
Okay,
or they
cool.
like the prototype racing, the sorts of cars that you see at Le Mans and that kind of stuff.
At the motor show.
Yeah. So you have that. So, but let me get out here now and just do some racing.
Let's do it.
Because I want to speak to the handling, which
right.
is really, really impressive.
Impressive whether you're using a wheel or a controller?
Obviously and honestly more impressive when you're using a wheel, but actually really quite good on the controller as well.
Cool.
One of the things that I was concerned about for a while when I played Project Cars, it's 8 or 9 months ago now.
Mm-hmm.
On the wheel, it was great, it was awesome, and then on a pad, it just didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
But they've obviously honed it over the past year or so, and it's heaps better.
Cool.
It's really, really good. And if you don't like it, and I won't go and show you a menu again now, but if you don't like it, or if you prefer I want to sort of mess with the dead zones and the stick and this and that, all of that can be customized as well.
Of course.
Customize the buttons, customize the sensitivity, the sticks, and all that sort of stuff. So it's really it's really aggressively
malleable.
trying to be the game that you want it to be.
Yeah.
Well, so now it's going to be difficult for me to speak because now I'm driving at the same time. But yeah, basically, I'm really in love with the sense of weight, and also I'm driving manual, and we've got the volume turned down so we don't cross-pollinate our mics.
The commentary, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the sense of weight is really, really good. The sense of speed from particularly some of the views, which I've got mapped to a few different buttons on this wheel.
On this thrust master.
Yes. Is also awesome. But you can just say that's another thing I should mention with the sort of the speed effects, like the sort of the speed wobble and that kind of stuff. If you don't like that, turn it off.
Right.
And you turn it down. Another thing you'll notice here, like I wouldn't turn it off in the video because you obviously can't see what I'm seeing. But just say like you're a real purist and you've got a wheel at home, and you kind of get irritated by having a wheel in front of you and your own hands, but then you really want to race in cabin view, but then you've got that wheel and the driver's hands in front of you, and it's kind of distracting. There's actually an option you can just turn that wheel off. Everything else stays. Everything else stays there, but the wheel you turn it off, and it vanishes from the cabin.
All of a sudden, you're in one of Google's self-driving cars.
Yeah, pretty much.
So if you were playing with a controller right now, could you use the right stick to look around the cabin and out the side, at the side mirror and everything like that, or?
Yeah, it's the right stick.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could map it to something else if you
Got
wanted,
it.
because there's a kind of a quick look left and a quick look right that I've got mapped
Right.
to the D-pad on this wheel.
Oh, okay.
Which is
Nice.
But there's also, I mean, I keep looking down. There's a few other views. We got the helmet view from Shift, which I really like, which has got this sort of subtle look to apex thing. Again, hitting the rev limiter. You'll see it probably. There's a good corner up here coming. And you'll just see, just as you start to become closer, it looks slightly to the left. Just so you can look through the corner, through the apex.
Right.
But yeah, I think one of the best things about Project Cars, for me, is how, like I mentioned in the text that in terms of the way the car list is curated, I do prefer Grid Autosport's car selection.
Okay.
I just thought it was just a bit of a better slate.
Right.
And it didn't feel like there's a few categories in this game that kind of feel underrepresented.
Right.
Like there's a couple of there's like a historical touring car section, but there's only 2 of them. So if you have a full field, if you have like a really large field of these cars, then you'll find that there's only one. You're driving one type and you're competing against that and one other, and that's it.
Right. Okay.
Grid Autosport had a little more to it, but that game didn't get the handling quite as good as Project Cars gets it.
Has there been any talk? Sorry, hold that thought. Any talk of Forza style DLC packs or anything, or is
there's regular DLC on the way. There's going to be regular free DLC. There's going to be the first free car actually is a Lykan Hypersport, which is the car that Vin Diesel jumped out of a skyscraper in Furious 7.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. This is a roof that I'm driving at the moment, which is kind of the Porsche proxy that everyone uses because EA's been squatting on Porsche for the past 20 years or so now.
Yeah, gotcha. So if there, like you were saying, if there are certain limited, like the touring cars and what have you, if they're limited now, they could be a bit more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Absolutely. This is very much this is a platform that Slightly Made could build on for years.
Right,
in
cool.
theory, assuming people warm to it, and
Yep.
I really hope they do because it's a really, really good game. But yeah, sorry, just to finish my point from before.
Sorry, yes.
With I don't know whether or not I've come across a racing game yet, that really highlights how different like a purpose-built race car is to a road car.
Right. Okay.
Because with the race cars, they feel light and they feel really agile, and you can throw them into these corners and you can feel the downforce. But then when you lose control, they go and they're gone in an instant. With the road cars, like there's a Focus RS in this game, which is kind of similar to my personal car. So I was like, oh yeah, I want to drive that. And when you're driving that, it's like, this feels really heavy. And that's a performance hatchback, but it still feels really heavy, and it understeers like a pig. And you're trying to like wrestle it into these corners, and it has none of the poise of a racing car.
Right, okay.
Which is entirely realistic. So yeah, I think it does a really good job of sort of highlighting those differences. The handling model is excellent. And if you're worried about, like I know that Slightly Mad, I personally think Shift 2 was quite underrated. I thought it had its kind of flaws, but I personally think it was slightly underrated. But it did have like this kind of weird input lag with the controls, which a lot of people were kind of irritated by.
Right.
None of that is present in this. They don't feel like similar games at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Hang on, I've just stalled. Also, you can fault. I'm glad I didn't, because that would have been really embarrassing. But you can jump to start, and then you have to do a drive-through penalty. So that's another thing to consider. Keep that in mind. I'm really, really enjoying it. I think the key thing here with Project Cars for me is that, like, I still like Autosport. I think it was a good game, and it did pack racing really well. And I think Codemasters have got a lot of experience in that. And I think it was the closest game for me, the closest game to capturing that for me since their see, look at the way the light comes through the trees. There's a lot of little touches, and you see the leaves get whipped up just there. And there's a few things you can see in replays that you can't actually see in live action racing, but like when you're watching in replays, the marbles from the tyres that get kicked off the racing line, they kind of bobble as the cars race past.
Wow.
It's really impressive. And now I've completely forgot what I was talking about. But yeah. With Autosport, I like that game. It's really good. But but there was a lot of stuff about it that was just a little too shallow. Like there was no pit stops. There was no weather. You couldn't make the races go for meaningful amounts of time. But this game, it's all of that stuff is there, and so much more, and it just really makes you feel like a race driver, which is
what more could you want?
Well, that's exactly what I want from a game. Like, I don't want it. Like a lot of people, I think there's a lot of purists who have a lot of fun, and that is great for them with really, really serious games like iRacing and that kind of stuff. The kinds of things you subscribe to and you have to make time for, and there's events scheduled and that kind of stuff. But this is more my speed, because it's really got it feels really authentic, but it's also a lot of fun, and like I can really get I get what it's going for, and like I said, it makes you feel like a race driver. And one of the anecdotes I used in the text was I was in a race where some of the races have mandatory pit stops, so I made a pit stop, and you get the race engineer comes over the microphone in. Actually, I should have mentioned on the PS4 version, the microphone is on your controller. That's really
cool.
Like that. I love it. It's such a cool little touch. But they comes over the microphone. And I say, one of the guys has fumbled a wheel nut. We'll have you on the way shortly. And I'm sitting in there just like waiting. I'm like, I need to get back out on the track. I'm losing time. And that's like a really interesting feeling, because it's like a really frustrating thing to happen. It's like, this sucks. This is really annoying. I've got to make back all this time that I just lost. But on the other hand, it's a new feeling. I've never had that sort of stress before.
That panic.
Yeah, that panic. And I'm like coming back out on the track with cold tires, knowing that I've lost a bunch of positions, and like, what am I going to do? Am I going to push really hard, and try to get some positions back, or am I just going to consolidate, defend where I am now, and just try to, make sure that I can perform well in the next race and maintain my place in the standings over the course of the entire championship. It's just really good. It's just really well designed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to when it comes out and I can play some other humans online, so I can finalise my impressions, because obviously multiplayer is a pretty important part of Project Cars. That's the part of the game where people are going to be playing it for years and years to come. So that is going to happen. Well, it's going to happen overnight for us, I think, as it's coming out on the 7th. Unless you're getting a physical copy in Australia, which has been delayed by all the rain we've had, apparently.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess we will leave it here.
Yep.
Wait for your final verdict in the coming days. If you are out there watching this, pick up a copy of Project Cars when it's released
Yeah,
shortly.
so
And help Luke finish his
yeah,
review.
so I can have someone to play against.
Yeah. But in the meantime, we'll leave you to fumble with your wheel nuts. And thank you very much, Luke.
Thank you, Tristan.
Bye.
Bye.